now, 727-510-7622. Call today. Your network 1-hour program can start tomorrow. Broadcast your message in audio and video on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Hello there, Tampa Bay. This is former NFL and college football coach Jimmy Johnson. Listen to the Kelly Show every Monday starting at 5 p.m. They can sure use the attention.
And this is former Major League Baseball player, Hall of Famer Wade Boggs. I also hope you listen to the Kelly Show every Monday starting at 5 p.m. They can darn sure use the money.
Hi there. This is marine wildlife artist and conservationist Dr. Guy Harvey. Please listen to the Kelly Show every Monday starting at 5 p.m. They need to feel worthy.
This is Paul Porter, the arena voice of the Tampa Bay Lightning and press box voice of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, inviting you to join me and Jason Alessi for the home team every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. here on the Tan Talk Radio Network and Facebook Live, the home team with Paul Porter. Special guests, prizes, and your phone calls about the Bucs, Lightning, Rays, USF, Sun, FSU, Florida, and more. Talk to you this Saturday at 9 a.m. right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Tune in Saturdays from 3 to 5 p.m. for Miss Sarah's Dynamic Gospel Power Show. That's 2 hours of great gospel music every Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. All brought to you by the Ozona Pig Restaurant in Ozona. Yes, that's every Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. It's Miss Sarah's Dynamic Gospel Power Show. Tune in on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Hey, you new to the area or just want to know about the best hidden gems and upcoming events? Stay tuned. Be Local Buzz with Devin takes you to these places, introduces you to the best businesses, and tells you about upcoming buzz. Preset your radio to Tan Talk 1340 AM or 106.1 FM every Thursday from 4 to 5. That is the Be Local Buzz with Devin on Tan Talk 1340 AM and 106 FM every Thursday from 4 to 5. Looking forward to speaking with you.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
It's now time for Connecting Caregivers with author, speaker, caregiver advocate, and talk show host Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for caregivers.
Caregivers around the world today, it's time to lift you up. It's time to celebrate. Good afternoon and welcome to Connecting Caregivers with me, Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers with love, laughter, and lessons learned. On the show where you can find help and hope. And I'm trying to get this thing on Facebook, and I don't know. I keep pressing go live, and it is not doing it. I don't know. Karyn, do you see anything? I don't see anything.
I see me moving.
It's a new format. Oh, they're sneaky. All right, well, we'll just go ahead. I'll figure it out. If not, you can hear us on FM, AM, and FM. We're live on YouTube.
But if you're listening to Facebook, you won't know that.
No, you won't know that. And with me, that voice is my best friend, my co-host, and my sidekick, not sidekick, Lynn Thornley.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
Doing well. We're in the cool south.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. I was in Pennsylvania, it was hotter than here. My sister in Maine is hotter than here. New York, hotter than here, right?
Yeah, I just came back from Michigan and it was 98 degrees. It was warmer than here.
Yeah. But it broke today up in New York. It went to 70. They're dying. It dropped 40 degrees or something.
Oh my God.
But it'll level out. But they've had up north, the worst is, it doesn't matter if you're retired, but they have had rain every weekend. Well, New York is since
Pennsylvania,
April.
where I was too. They were so bad. They couldn't even cut the grass because it was so wet.
Weekend.
Yeah.
And then in the week, it's nice. And that's tough when you're working.
Yeah. But how's Mr. Ed doing today?
Doing all right. I'm trying to figure out what you got going over there anyway.
Yeah, I have no idea. And with us, we have my friend Karyn Rizzo. We're going to talk to you on the second half of the show in your latest endeavor, A Place for Mom.
Yep, I'm really happy to be here.
I'm glad that you're here too. The first thing we want to do is give a shout out to our newest listeners. We have Velva in Clearwater, we have Renee in Largo, and we have Maura in St. Pete.
Oh, welcome, ladies.
And like they say, there's always plenty of room around the Connecting Caregivers table for more listeners, whether you listen when we're live on the radio or wherever our stuff will take us. Okay. And with us right now, we have on the phone Jade Angelica. Hi, Dr. Jade. How are you today?
Hi, Linda. It's so good to talk with you. I'm just fine, and I'm grateful to be here with you.
We're grateful you're here. Dr. Jade was part of my last conference in May, and we got a ton of wonderful comments about how she presented and everything that she presented. She just has a different way about her that I find just comfortable and kind. And I think on our caregiving journey, we really have to look at those kind of things. So she's a writer, a spiritual director, and a dementia educator. And she designs and leads workshops, presentations at church and community services, and professional trainings through Healing Moments for Alzheimer's, the nonprofit organization she founded in 2007. So welcome, my friend. I'm so glad that you're here. You also took care of your mom, who passed from Alzheimer's in 2011, was it?
Yes. Yeah, that's when she passed away.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the personal aspects about your experience.
Well, it was an amazing experience taking care of someone with Alzheimer's, and I didn't start the journey with a lot of enthusiasm because I was really afraid. Two of my mom's sisters both died from Alzheimer's. And so it was something that was a part of our family for decades, and most of us just tried to avoid it. But then when your own mother is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, you can't really avoid it. And so I was living in Maine, 1,200 miles away from my mom, who was living in Iowa. And because I wasn't there, the way that I took care of her was to learn as much as I could about Alzheimer's.
Right.
And so I took on a studying about it. And when I did encounter her, some of the things that I discovered was that, a lot of people consider an Alzheimer's diagnosis to bring a great deal of suffering into our lives, both the person who has it and the family members. And what I discovered is that through suffering, we can really find meaning and purpose in our lives.
Because sometimes we have to get to that suffering state before we take the time to stop and look.
Exactly. And that's, that's what's happened with you in your life as well. And look at the meaning and purpose you have found. So it's almost like we've got similar discoveries, Linda, that, we can take our stories and our journeys and take what we learned and help other people. So that's one of the things that really happened for me, is that I was able to write about my journey, and the book that's recently been published, Where Two Worlds Touch, helps people learn more so that they'll be more informed on their journeys. I also developed a workshop that helps people learn how to communicate and connect with people.
Because there's so much education that's needed. The first thing we think of when you become a caregiver is, okay, what kind of dementia is it? We look at all the medical stuff first.
Yeah, it's very clinical first.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, there's a whole package here. And there's other stuff that I need to pay attention to.
Exactly. And I really feel like being informed is one of the most important things that caregivers can do. They learn about the disease, about what to expect and about what not to expect. And then they have to learn about the person, how to care for the person, how to communicate, how to connect, how to care for ourselves on the journey. I know that was part of your conference too, which I thought was really important, Linda, is to encourage caregivers to take care of themselves on the journey, because, caregivers can often become very sick and or die before their loved ones because of all the stress. So that's really important.
But, I always say your caregiving experience can be the most horrific experience of your life, or close to beautiful, depending on how you handle it.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. It has a lot to do with the attitude. For me, it was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. And another thing I discovered was that people with Alzheimer's, when we engage with them in a way that they can receive and connect with us, we can really experience the giving and receiving of unconditional love.
Yeah.
In a way that it doesn't really happen in other kinds of relationships. No. So that was an amazing experience for me. And I found that people with Alzheimer's have a way of being really authentic. I mean, it's really the only thing
they can't
do.
fake it. They can't fake
they
it.
Can't. They can't fake it.
You know?
They have a way. Yeah, they're just so authentic. And for me, that was so refreshing. You know, even if they were angry, you know, or pounding on the table, it was so genuine. It was so real.
Yeah.
That I felt like I wanted to engage with that. I wanted to know more about that. And one of the things that I find really troubling is that people try to medicate away in some way or form these authentic expressions because they perceive them to be troublesome or acting out, and if we can really learn how to engage with people with Alzheimer's, those kinds of expressions don't have to be troublesome.
You know, we just have to learn about the different things. So for instance, a lot of people, you know, get really upset at sundowners time, and caregivers don't know what to do. And so I have a gentleman who takes care of his aunt, and she also has an issue with eating. She doesn't really like to eat much. So every day at sundowners time, he makes cute little sandwiches with like little party sandwiches, and he gives her some like sparkling wine, make believe, whatever. And they dance to big band music for an hour.
Oh, wow.
And she doesn't have any issues with sundowning anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the neighbors say, we find joy watching them through the window dance. So
isn't that a great
figure out a way?
Yep. You got to meet them where they are.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I like to share in workshops is I think that the journey with Alzheimer's really challenges our creativity. And I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
And what you've just shared there, Linda, is a beautiful story of creativity.
But you know what? Some days we're really creative and other days we're just shocked.
Well, right. Right.
So I think that's the more education we have and the more that we surround ourselves with our village and with other people, then we can have a day when we're shot and somebody else can pull up for us.
Right. Right. But, this man that you're describing, he doesn't have those like stressful experiences on sundowner days anymore.
Right.
Because he's dancing.
Yeah. And how is he going to remember his aunt? That's what he's going to remember for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
The afternoons they danced together. He's not going to remember the day she had an accident in the bathroom or whatever else, or got lost in the supermarket.
Yeah. With my grandmother.
Go ahead.
Well, with my grandmother who had Alzheimer's, she was from Ireland, the old country, County Cork, and never wanted to miss a tea time. So the family just arranged every different relative to come in shifts to take over the tea time. And as long as she had her tea time and was able to watch a little baseball with a shot of Crown, it completely changed the sundowning experience for her completely.
Yeah.
So it was just a matter of everybody getting creative and say, okay, what does she like to do? What can we do to support that?
Yeah. Right. And many times it's just figuring it out. Maybe sometimes they're just having a bad attitude because they hear strange sounds or because there's shadows from the curtains that scare them. So we have to go into that whole part of the caregiving journey about finding out what's going on.
Exactly. That's, one of the topics that I talk about in my workshops is developing and enhancing our skills of observation just for that purpose, because the people with Alzheimer's often can't tell us what they need or what's wrong.
Right.
And so we need to be observing.
Well, one of my caregivers calls it, I have to listen with my eyes.
Yeah.
She says, I have to listen with my eyes. I know at certain points she can't explain anything to me.
Right.
But and she said, once I started doing that, things got a little bit easier for me. Because we get, most of us are just not caring for one person. We have a family to take care of, or someone else, or a spouse, or whatever, or a job, or whatever. And so we're rushing. So many times we're not sitting down at their level and talking to them and looking at them and touching them. And I think that's something so important we have to remember. Yes.
Oh, for sure. And I like that. I think that when we can come up with short slogans like that for caregivers, it really makes a difference. Like, I have to listen with my eyes in addition to my ears. I think that's kind of like a really vivid image that can help people understand. You need to notice things that are going on.
Yeah.
Because we've all discovered that people with Alzheimer's are not necessarily the best reporters of what's going on to them. We could ask them what they had for lunch, and they'll tell you a big story and about how good the fish was, and then you find out that they didn't have lunch.
Yeah.
So we need to really need to pay attention. Yeah. And some of the skills that I really encourage caregivers to learn, one of them is observation, one of them is trying to be present in the moment, like you said, meet them where they are, and accepting what is, learning about the disease, accepting what is.
Yeah.
These are what's going to make both the caregivers' lives and the people with dementia and Alzheimer's, it's going to make their lives better.
Yeah.
So these are skills we really, and creativity, of course, like let's enhance our creativity.
Yeah. And then I think
this is an opportunity for us to grow, as human beings.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I say it was a privilege that I got to care for my mother. Now, I'm not saying there weren't tough days. I'm not saying it wasn't hard, but it was a privilege. And I think if we can look at it that way, it's a whole different twist. A whole different twist. And, and we have to go through our caregiving experience too. Maybe we got to do some forgiveness. I know you talk about that. That can be an issue too, right?
Well, absolutely. In fact, in my book, I have a whole chapter on forgiveness because
let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay. So, my mother and I had a very challenging, fragmented relationship over a lot of years. And I did a lot of work on my own life and my own background, and, trying to sort all of that out. And it was because I did all of that work that I was able to come back into the relationship with her at a time when she really needed me. And I was coming from a really loving place.
You were coming in with fresh eyes.
I was coming in with fresh eyes, but I was also coming in with a fresh heart because when I saw how vulnerable she was, it just opened up my heart in a really unexpected way. But what was also really interesting is that she kind of forgot all the things I'd done over my life that disappointed her. And so who I was for her was, her girl. And she saw me now with fresh eyes as somebody who came to see her every day. I was very loving. I was meeting her needs. And this relationship that developed between us in this Alzheimer's experience was completely unexpected by me. I thought I was making this big sacrifice moving from Boston to Dubuque, Iowa to take care of my mother. And it turned out to be the best experience of my life.
I think there's a big thing about acceptance there.
Yeah. And
accepting the journey that we're on.
Accepting the journey that we're on. And also the piece of, and what happens is sometimes people who come from like family experiences like mine, which was very, very troubled, and my mom was an alcoholic. And so the family life was chaotic and things were very, very troubled, is people carry a lot of anger and resentment in their hearts. And then when they have to take care of a loved one who is dependent on them, that sometimes doesn't go so well. They could be angry, they could feel entitled or resentful.
Well, you didn't take care of me. Why should I take care of you?
Exactly. And in this situation, this Alzheimer's disease, I feel, is calling us to be our best selves in this society, because this is our most vulnerable population.
Yeah. And a large population.
And we have to rise to the occasion. And, that's one of the conclusions I reach in my book is this disease is relentless, and for 100+ years, they've been trying to figure out what causes it, how do we treat it, how can we cure it, and so far there's no information for answers to any of those questions. And I'm looking at this now from that perspective, saying, so why is it here? And I feel like it's an invitation for this whole world, this whole society, every individual to grow in our compassion.
Slow down. Take what we have here. Enjoy our time with our loved ones. See, just remember that we're taking care of the most important people in our lives.
Right.
And I think we teach our children how to take care of us.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely teaching my children and grandchildren how to take care of me.
Absolutely.
What I want, what I don't want, because we're having these conversations that we never had before.
Yeah.
Because years ago, it wasn't any Alzheimer's or dementia. It was grandma was getting senile and they put her to bed.
Yeah.
You
know, it was interesting because when I was a little girl, my grandfather, who probably also had dementia, died when I was 6.
Okay.
So I wasn't, wasn't really
right.
aware. Yeah. But over all the years of my childhood, every Saturday, my mother would make homemade cinnamon rolls.
Mm.
And then on Saturday afternoon, I would ride with her from, home to home of her elderly aunt. And she would deliver these
cinnamon
rolls to them. And it was, it was just something I witnessed, her caring for her older relatives.
Right.
So that was part of, my upbringing. And I think that I had lunch with a friend who cared for her mother when her children were very young. And it was it's that same kind of thing that you were talking about your kids. She offered an example to her children how to care for an elderly person. But I really do think that we are in a bit of a compassion crisis in the world, and that this disease is really calling us to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
But can I just say another thing about forgiveness?
Yes.
Because one of the things that comes up quite often is how angry people get about this disease. A lot of spouses will be very angry that they've waited all these years for retirement, and now
not
look
fair.
at it. Not fair, yeah, and
No.
they're very angry. I had a friend at the nursing home whose mom was next door to my mom, and she was just infuriated that her mother had Alzheimer's because she was a very good, devout Catholic woman, and she went to church every day and she prayed the rosary every day.
Yeah.
And how could God let this happen?
Exactly. I bet you a lot of people feel that exact same way.
Yeah, I hear that from families all the time.
Yeah.
They did everything right. They don't smoke. They don't drink. They don't have any vices. They go to church. And how could something like this happen to them?
That's not right. So, Jade,
and go ahead, Linda.
We got to wrap it up a little bit. So I want to know where our listeners can find you. And I want to know what's the last thing you want our caregivers to hear from you today.
Okay. So I just want to offer some guidance for caregivers. How about that?
Yeah.
So when I offer the workshops, there's a few things that I teach. One of them is about therapeutic siblets, and we talked about meeting them in their moment, meeting them in their world, and that's the recommended method of communicating for people with Alzheimer's and dementia, and it has been over the past 30 years.
Okay.
And so we are actually going to be planning an online class to teach caregivers how to do this. So I'll let you know.
Yeah,
when
let
we
me
get
know.
that up
I'll
and
announce it
running,
on the
Linda.
show and I'll send it out to my list.
That'd be great. And so the other thing I want to let them know is that my work focuses on what remains,
What
in
we
addition
have,
to
yes.
what's lost.
Yeah.
And I know that's what your work focuses on too. And it's becoming more prevalent now in this day and age, but this is the focus that I've been talking about for the last 18 years.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to let people know is that although cognition, people forget cognitively, they remember emotionally.
Yeah.
There have been studies done about this, that even though they can't remember what happened, they remember how the experience made them feel.
How they feel.
And so this is really important for caregivers to know. If you go to visit your loved one and an hour after you've left, they've forgotten that you've been there, they still remember how you made them feel.
Exactly. Where can our listeners find you?
Oh, pardon me, where can they find me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm at jadeangelica.com or healingmoments.org, or you can email me at jadeangelica@gmail.com.
All right, and I'll put all that information in the show. Thank you so much for being with me today, my friend.
It was great. You take care.
We'll talk soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
And now it's time to hear from our wonderful partners, because you know the deal. If you don't hear from them, you don't hear from me. So don't go away. We'll be right back on Connecting Caregivers Radio.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
Are you getting older, or are you taking care of somebody who is? You know, getting older creates new problems you probably never imagined. One of the big ones is, how do you pay for care? Care in your home, care in an assisted living facility, or care in a nursing home. Did you know that nursing home care in our community can cost up to $12,000 per month? For the last 33 years, our office has helped families access benefits, including Medicaid, VA, and PACE, to help pay for the cost of long-term care. Regardless of what your assets are or what your income is, you can qualify for these benefits. Proper planning and guidance are absolutely necessary to avoid being wiped out. Let us help. If you are in care or heading in that direction, we can help solve that problem. Take action now to obtain benefits to pay for the cost of care. Here are the 4 things that you need to do. 1, get a new power of attorney. Your old one probably isn't good enough. Get a healthcare surrogate and a living will. 3, get an estate plan that will not disqualify you from benefits. And 4, get a plan to qualify for Medicaid, PACE, or VA benefits to pay for the long-term care costs. Call us today for a free consultation, 727-539-0181, or go to flmedicaid.com and download our free book on Medicaid and planning for long-term care. I'm Sean Scott. I'm here to help.
Guaranteed to make you laugh through your tears, Linda Burhan's book, Good Night and God Bless, is filled with humor and heartfelt inspiration to aid anyone facing the challenge of caring for a loved one at the end of life. Her story offers hope for human strength and understanding of weaknesses during a difficult time. Life doesn't normally prepare us to become a loved one's caregiver. When it happens, it's usually sudden. A diagnosis of an illness, age-related frailty, dementia, and life suddenly is anything but normal. And because we don't even know what we don't know, where do we turn to for help or guidance? In Connecting Caregivers, Answers to the Questions You Didn't Know You Needed to Ask, Linda offers information, education, and inspiration from her own experience and from experts whose advice, practical tools, and personal stories will empower and guide you. Make sure to add these inspiring books to your collection today. Available on Amazon.com.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
And we're back. Always love chatting with Jade. And now we have my friend Karyn Rizzo here. Welcome back.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
Karyn's been in a lot of different jobs in the industry, and she has a ton of experience. And now all of a sudden, you're with a Place for Mom.
I am. It's
What made you choose that?
Well, it was a combination. A Place for Mom is a nationwide referral company. They have the largest network in all 50 states and Canada.
They've been around a while.
25 years in July. They have just so much support and knowledge and training and education that they support families with. But in my career, I've done skilled nursing and assisted living. And they developed a healthcare division a couple of years ago, and they partner with hospitals because there's a huge objective to reduce readmissions. Yeah. And also there's a lot of people that would present at the emergency departments for placement for mom or dad. And the social workers are, they're
inundated.
They're inundated. They've got utilization they have to do, reports they have to do. They're supposed to make a decision on either admitting someone or discharging them home within 15 minutes to an hour. And, because of that, it created a partnership alliance with a Place for Mom and a lot of these nationwide hospitals. But then when they told me, I said, what would my territory be? Oh, Morton Plant down to Bayfront. That's my fuzzy.
That's where I live.
That's my fuzzy robe and slippers for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
So I already have very strong relationships with a lot of the discharge planners, the case managers, and.
So let's explain to our listeners who don't know really what you do.
Okay, so what I do is I'm basically.
But they see the commercials quick.
Right. So what a Place for Mom does is they are basically a resource of education and information based on what the family or patient's needs are. Right. It might be initially home care in the home, needing some support there. It might eventually need a memory care assisted living facility. It might be something that somebody wants to downsize their big house and go into independent living because they're lonely and they, they've lost a lot of their friends or relatives and neighbors and they want to be still social and active. And so those are the resources that we connect patients and families with in a very patient, loving, thoughtful way. We don't have any steerage going on because we're a completely free service to the patients and families.
Yeah. And that's a good thing to know because I don't think a lot of people realize that.
No, and it's a great resource because even if we do a full big picture screen when we meet somebody and we're working with them. So we don't just say what's mom or dad's medical needs, whoever they're looking for. Let's look at, did they serve in the military? Do they have property that could be included to pay for the cost of their care?
Do they like a big community, a little
small community?
Right.
Do they want, a view of the water? Do they not want a view of the water? In our case, because we live in Florida, sometimes, and what I love about it is that I have families that they're actually touring facilities in different states. Like I have a family that they're looking here in Florida for mom and dad to get a place together because the house and the hurricanes and everything last year were kind of a lot. And then they're also looking though in Chicago and in Boston to see what the price point is, what the availability is, and then what mom and dad's preferences would be and who makes the most sense for them to be their partner in their care coverage. Because I always tell people that, yes, I know when you retire in Florida, you get used to the warm weather. You don't always want to go back up north. But if you have a son or daughter there that can be there to help oversee.
As you get older and you need to
go to the doctor and an advocacy and the facility community partners get to really know the family's going to be there. They know what mom or dad's preferences are because some of our elders come from a generation where you don't rock the boat, you don't stir the pot. And so without the family saying, no, they actually don't prefer fish, or they actually do prefer fish on Fridays,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
they're not going to always speak up and say what their preferences are. So we try to do the picture from not just the medical side of things, but their hobbies, their interests, what gives them joy. What did they enjoy to do along in their history when they were younger, before they had any mobility issues or limitations?
Yeah, like you're saying, if they're a vet, that makes a big deal.
A lot of our callers, especially women, don't realize that as long as they married someone who served during a wartime, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, or Korea, and they didn't divorce them, key thing, they did. If they passed away, they are eligible for an additional $1,300 a month in spousal support.
Yeah, I'm waiting for mine when the time comes.
Right. And so,
But they don't know
we
about
discussed this when we first met, because a lot of women, I mean, it was a mandatory draft through those war times.
Yeah.
And they served, and they called up for service, and they served our country, and they're still eligible for these benefits. But is it very easy to access these benefits? Well, with us, we partner with a company called Patriots Angels.
Okay.
And I also found out when they get a referral of our clients, even if there's work to be done to do the application process, they even have discounted rates or completely complimentary assistance to help do the application, because if that application gets denied on the government side, it can be real tricky to get that overturned in an appeal. And so we really hold their hands. We're kind of,
and they need it.
They need it. And I tell families, like, there's no way you could have prepared for what you didn't know you were going to need. You know,
and things change every day, even now.
You
know, like there are some communities where I think it's the bomb community, but it changes hands or it has new management, and I don't want to send my dog there. But you guys are monitoring that.
We do site visits. We do site visits. We do compliance checks to make sure there's
right
service.
here.
And I'm right here, and in the local community. I do bedsides at the hospital. I follow people into the rehab centers. And it's interesting that Jade had brought out about the over medication with people with Alzheimer's and dementia. And I've recently had such a success story, because I was monitoring someone who had been referred to me at the hospital, and she had Alzheimer's dementia. We're working on getting her into assisted living. Well, I go to check on her one day. It's 9:30 in the morning, and the nurse had sedated her. And I said, why are you sedating her at 9:30 in the morning? Right. She needs to eat breakfast. She needs to work with therapy. She needs to take her medications. So I called her husband and I said, listen, I know you check on her every single day, but you or your neighbors, somebody needs to be there first thing in the morning so that they are not sedating her, so that she can eventually get to the point where she could go into the memory care assisted living facility he had selected. And then even this community partner, I was so proud of them, because the nursing homes in summer can kind of dry up a little bit in their census. It gets a little bit of a drop. Well, the nursing home had informed this husband that, no, you can't take your wife to assisted living. And then he called me immediately. I called the community partner. They already had all the paperwork they needed for her. They showed up, they picked her up in a wheelchair van, and they said, we've already assessed her. We've already gotten her orders from her doctors, and we're going to put her in the apartment he chose. And
that's so huge.
You know, it's huge, because the husband felt like he had no rights.
You feel like you have no choices.
Exactly. And sometimes there's, and you and I have discussed this extensively about the role money in our healthcare system has played through the years, that they don't even understand what the ultimate motivation might be for what they're giving them. And so when I saw the chance to be able to be taking my 25 years in long-term care and skilled nursing and just be able to hold someone's hand
so
through the process. So they can go to
that next very important step.
Yes.
That very important step.
Well, and they've done studies that people who are in assisted living facilities, it extends their life 3 to 5 years at a minimum.
Right. I believe it, because they're not just sitting in the chair.
They're not just watching TV. They've got neighbors, socialization. They've got people available to check on them.
It doesn't even have to be a big deal. It could just be someone to talk to once or twice a day.
But someone to eat with.
Someone to eat with, or like
or prepare the meals.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or prepare the meals, because then a lot of times they don't eat.
Can't be bothered.
Right, exactly. And then even the other things, they've done the nutritional advantages of it, that people who live in these communities have a lower urinary tract infection probability, because we know that in our elders, if they get dehydrated,
right,
they can get these conditions. And with an Alzheimer's dementia patient, they can't even tell you what's wrong.
Right.
They can't tell you when they're thirsty or when they're hungry.
Right.
So having that routine of people that are checking, how much of the breakfast did they eat? How much are we noticing a change in condition? If we're noticing a change in condition, have we requested a lab work from the doctor so we can address it before it gets to
be a panic?
Correct. Before they decline or before they get more confused or it gets to an escalation point, crisis point is what we call it. So that's the whole goal of
So I'm sure people are listening and they're saying, when do I make this call?
Well,
you don't want to make it when mom fell down.
No. Well, first of all, if somebody's fallen once, there's a 65% chance they're going to fall again. Okay, first of all.
Yeah.
So and
the second fall can be the last.
Correct. And there are falls that there are no surgeries for, and we know this. And then that means they're not able to go into these type of communities. They have to go straight to a nursing home. And those can take 6 months to a year to heal some of those fall fractures that there is no surgery for. So the other thing I tell people is to call early.
Yeah.
Call my cell phone directly, the 727-919-1247 number, which I'll give to you as well. And the reason why I tell them that is because sometimes if there's things like properties to be sold, veterans benefits that need to be applied for, that can take some time. And if
and you have all these resources,
right? We have the resources to connect them so they can start working on it. Because sometimes to do a move, yes, we can do a quick move. We can do a respite move. In fact, I did one in 48 hours out of the VA last month. Because the husband had to go to rehab. He fell at home taking care of his wife with Alzheimer's dementia. You know that old stick. It's a common story. And now the sister's down working on the house and trying to get them into an apartment together. But so we did get a partner to get her into a respite for within 48 hours. But most of your moves eventually can take up to 2 to 3 months or more.
Well, I just think you got to empty everything out of your house, your condo, whatever.
But there's also another partner that we partner with called Elder Life, and it's a financial institution. And most of these people have owned that, especially if they've lived in their house a long time, they have decent credit. They have what's called a bridge loan that can happen. So say while the house is being up for sale, they can pull in additional value for that cash
to move into the community,
to be able to pay for their care and have up to a year to be able to pay that back. So it gives them that time to not be in an unsafe situation. And so I tell everybody, this is kind of my when I see my discharge planners and people that we partner with, anybody who's at risk, anybody going home alone, that is a good referral for me. Anybody who has dementia, Alzheimer's, that's either been diagnosed, not been diagnosed, or is presenting with any kind of confusion, those are excellent contacts for me to start working with right away. And the difference in the experience, if they call myself in the healthcare division, is they're going to get calls and resources sent to them from myself and one other advisor that live right here in Florida, in the Tampa Bay area. Now, if they want referrals made in other states, we can do that as well. But the difference, if they just go online, and I laugh every time somebody says, I saw a sign that said, online searching for senior living is not strategic planning, it's desperation.
For sure.
And when you're in desperation mode, what happens is these overstressed caregivers, they now
pick a place that's not the best place.
Right. So then they start getting barraged by all these spam calls, communities, people that aren't even living in the area. Whereas when we work with a family, we narrow down 2 or 3 places, and then they tell us if they like them or not.
Yeah.
And then if they don't like any of those places, would you like us to widen the search?
Right.
Would you like us to try some alternative areas? Are you willing to go into an alternative area?
So do you get a lot of children that call you, or the people that actually move?
Both. We get both.
Yeah.
I get both. The ones.
I think some of the children, they might be like in another state. Mom's here, and they don't even really, not even sure everything that what's going on with her.
Oh no, they do the Sunday check-in calls.
Do they?
Sunday check-in calls, and some of our elders are very, very creative at not worrying their children.
Yeah.
Not worrying their children. I mean, I was at my in-laws actually last weekend, and we were just looking around going, oh, please tell me they're going to start downsizing soon. So, because, we're looking at this as the adult children going, this is going to be a lot. And so what happens is when they're out of state like that, oh, are you eating lunch? Are you eating dinner? Yeah, but lunch might have been Oreo cookies. Dinner,
Well, I love my stepmother to death. She's going to be 90 and she's fabulous, but we do a Zoom. And if you're listening, Heidi, sorry. We do a Zoom every week, and she comes on. She's got her lipstick on. She's all prettied up. But I'm going there in a couple of weeks because I need hands-on.
Right, you do. You got to check on
be there.
You got to check on our elders for sure, and just make sure they're in a safe situation.
Yeah.
And if a doctor or a healthcare provider or home health person calls you and says we're concerned about mom or dad or fill in the blank, that's a good time to call us and because I can be the boots on the ground. And if everybody's I've had home care agencies call me and say, can you come meet me to do a safety check for one of our patients and clients? And we realize, the cat is now not being taken care of. The plants are dead. The plants are dead. There's, they've been
garbage needs to be taken out.
They might or might not still be driving, whether they should or not.
Exactly.
Which is scary sometimes. So that's when we can start putting a care plan together of resources that way it's not panic mode.
Yeah, and so I know people are still listening. They're still saying, "How come I don't have to pay any money?"
Because we partner with our community partners.
So in other words, the community that you might move into,
right?
You get paid from the community.
Yeah, and I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say there's no steerage, there's no choose this facility.
Right.
It makes no difference. I am a W-2 employee. I make the same amount of money no matter what matter what community they choose. It's all about their preferences. And it's an interesting thing I've learned about families through the years, because I've worked for some really, really high-end, very brand new, shiny new car smell facilities, and some very modest, humble facilities. And sometimes families will come in as mom was a judge, this person was a this person was a that. They want grander, they want that, and sometimes they go, no, that's too much. I want to I just want a little.
Feel like I'm on home.
I want a smaller place that's not so far to get to for dinner or whatever. So everybody has their own preferences, and we partner with modest, humble, even group homes, even communities. Way up to the high.
And I have to tell you, so any communities you are thinking about going to, go there and check it out yourself. Go there when you don't know when no one knows you're coming. Because what I like to say is, I go into a lot of these communities, they got these big $5,000 pictures on the wall. I'm like, take the picture down and sell it and pay your employees. So you need to talk to the people that work there, and you need to talk to other people that are there. So Karyn, where can our listeners find you?
My personal cell phone, or work cell phone rather, confidential, is 727-919-1247, or you can also email me directly. It's very long. It's Karyn.Rizzo, Rizzo, and then hyphenated for my new husband, Jimenez, JIMENEZ @aplaceformom.com. That's why I say
or as she says, her phone number is 727-919-1247.
Exactly.
All right.
It's much easier, and you can text.
Yes. All right. It's time to hear from our wonderful partners, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Choosing the right chiropractor is an important choice to make. Located in Seminole, the Alexander Spine Center team is trained on the latest chiropractic treatments and technologies. At Alexander Spine Center, you'll find chiropractic and physical therapy care that is safe, effective, and a natural approach to pain and other health-related issues. Chiropractic unlocks your body's potential and natural healing process to ensure your life is a healthy life. We treat clients from the womb to the tomb. Call 727-397-3000 for a free consultation today, or visit our website at www.alexanderspinecenter.com.
They take good care of me twice a week, so check them out.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
We believe the power of the human body and mind can do amazing things, and that tapping into that power, not just tricking it with a temporary disguise, is possible. Superpatch technology uses a special pattern and vibrotactile technology to help you go from feeling blah to hurrah. Now, once the Superpatch is in contact with your skin, it triggers a neutral response in the brainstem that helps you tackle your daily problems head on. Whether you're struggling with pain, balance, stress, or focus, we have a solution that might be right for you. With Superpatch's 30-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Hi, this is Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers. I started using the Liberty Patch over 3 years ago. I used to be a tripper, but since wearing a Liberty Patch, I haven't tripped once. The Liberty Patch is proven to reduce the risk of falling by up to 8 times. And as we all know, if you prevent the fall, you prevent the call. Don't wait until it's too late. Preventative solutions are the answer.
Superpatch does not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure illness. Superpatch is FDA registered. To receive 25% off your first order, go to sticktoit.info. That's sticktoit.info and learn more.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
And we are back. So we have some events coming up I want to let you know about. Sages Theater, Saturday, July 19th at the Palladium in St. Pete from 2 to 3:30. You can RSVP at playswithpurpose@sages.org or 727-202-2302. So it's on July 19th at the Palladium and then July 26th at the Catherine Hickman Theater, both times 2 to 3:30. Arden Courts is having a seminar coming up with Eileen Poley. She's from the USF Health Bird Alzheimer's Institute. That's June 24th from 10 to 1. You can RSVP at 512-9925. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We're here to give you any information you need. Go to my website, lindaburhans.com, and nominate someone for the caregiver contest. It just takes you a minute. If you need anything, contact me. I will help you. Remember, God loves you all the time, and have a delicious day.